Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the home and the traditional lands of the Ojibwe, the Cree, Dakota peoples, and then the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this morning. Introducing the panel members is Gail Anderson, and with her is Mr. Kent Selim. Our recording secretary is Mr. Stephen Lunn, and representing the city of Winnipeg from the assessment department is Mr. Matthews Shields. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you will be placed in the waiting room until the property is called upon. Then it'll be your turn and you will be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow along the City of Winnipeg Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host has admitted you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak in respect to your property. Once your hearing has been concluded, you may leave the meeting. This morning, we'll be hearing application of a revision of the assessment roll according to the Municipal Assessment Act, the matters for which revision is requested, described in each application, and will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn in testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by City Council and is independent along with the City Administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Municipal Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application from exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this morning, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then it'll be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this morning. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. This morning, we'll be hearing items 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Mr. Lunn, can you swear in the assessor and the applicant's testimony, if you please? Thank you.
Mr. Shields, if you please stand. Please state your full name.
Matthew Shields.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And Mr. Applicant, if you please stand. Please state your full name.
I don't know, was it?
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
All right. Mr. Applicant, if you feel better, would you want to take your jacket off or anything like that, or are you okay?
Okay.
Make you feel comfortable. Okay. We will, first item on the docket this morning is number 42 Keewatin Street. Mr. Assessor, whenever you're ready, you can take us through the business tax appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is file number 22-4093 for the roll year of 2023, address at 42 Keewatin Street, business assessment ID 31797. The annual rental value is $69,720, with a total area of all premises of 3,681 with an overall ARV per square foot of $18.94. Below that, you can see the breakdown as this business is spread over 2 premises at the location. And then under that, you can see the rent comparables that I've given. These comparables, the 3 or 4 located on Aaron Street, are located in an industrial area, which is not quite the same kind of area as the subject location, which is right on Keewatin. And then the last 2 on Notre Dame, I would say, are the most comparable location wise, as they're on a main street, obviously Notre Dame Street. I have a recommendation to reduce the assessed value to $66,120.
And your recommendation is based on?
It's based on the comparables I saw here, which they have a lower rental rate, but I took into consideration that the subject property has its own quite large parking lot out in front for parking, whereas all the 2 on Notre Dame that I'd say are the most comparable have only street parking out front. So that's where I applied a rental rate to the premise of 5,377, a rental rate of $17 per square foot, which would be a total ARV per square foot of $17.96.
Mr. Applicant, are you in agreement with the recommendation or not?
Not really.
Okay, then that's fine. We'll get to your presentation very shortly, but as long as you don't agree that is your right. So, Mr. Assessor, please continue on.
That's my entire presentation.
All right. Mr. Applicant, do you have any questions in regards to what you just heard from the assessment department?
Yeah, actually, so during COVID, I have presented like in my application.
Okay, Mr. Applicant, I'm just asking you for questions in regards to what you just heard from the assessment department, then we'll get into your presentation. So do you have any questions in regards to what you just heard?
No.
All right. Ms. Anderson, questions?
Just to confirm, the overall per square foot rate reduction is from, that you're recommending is from $18.94 to $17.96. Did I hear that correctly?
That's for the one premise that I adjusted.
Okay. So not the overall.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. And then it computes to $66,120.
Yeah,
Correct?
that's the final value. Yeah.
That's the recommendation. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
Yes, so the premise that you adjusted was the 5377 premise.
Correct.
Can you tell us the difference between these 2 premises? Because we have 2 different sizes here. Is it 2 physical buildings? Are they side by side?
It's one building.
What is?
Yeah, it's 1-story like building. It's one. I believe the other space is the basement area.
Okay, so is I apologize here, is the
exterior measurements of the building is 2,400 square feet. So the other premise, I'm assuming, was the basement, but I have not actually, I didn't inspect the building in this case. but the exterior measurements, square footage wise are 2,400 square feet.
Oh, I see. So the second piece you feel is the basement, okay?
Yes, yeah, and I didn't touch that rental rate. It was
Oh.
just the main floor, yeah.
Gotcha. Do you know what's inside the basement there? Is it like storage or is it used for sales or?
I don't know specifically, no.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Shields, the basement area, I think you're saying is 1,281 square feet. And you-
That's what we have on file, yeah.
Yeah, and you're using a rate of $12.56.
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel that's a little high for basement space?
It can be depending on what it's used for, but I didn't have a chance to inspect the property to see what it's being used for, so I didn't feel that I could change that number based on.
So is this, Mr. Shields, is this all model driven?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I thank you. Sir, we're ready for your presentation, so the floor is yours.
My turn?
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I'm of the opinion that because of the COVID and other circumstances, the economy is, not doing very good. An annual rental value, I think it doesn't matter anymore. Because if I want to rent this building for that amount, nobody gonna give me that kind of rent. Because my sales have been declining like since 2018. And I have presented like 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. And now I'm making losses. So business tax is all about like business of the property. Like if business is down, how can we pay the business tax? Because our cigarette and tobacco sales, for example, have declined like 75% or more. And it's declining again. And 60 to 65% of the total sales is comprised of cigarette and tobacco. And moreover, during COVID, we had to shut down our laundromat. That was providing us a little assistance, but now we can't do anything about that. And we received like $60,000 as government assistance in the shape of bank loan over a span of 2 years, like 40,000 in 2020 and 20,000 in 2021, out of which we have to repay $40,000 by 31st December 2023. However, given the current conditions of the business, it seems almost impossible to repay the loan. The remainder of $20,000 have been shown as government grants in the above description, and the company has paid taxes on that income. And due to scarcity of cash in the business, more than half of the salaries and rent have not been paid to the directors, managers of the company for the last 3 years. Moreover, the directors have contributed to the business from their own savings to pay taxes and other expenses of the business. So despite the strange circumstances of the business, all the taxes have been paid in full and up to date by the company. And we hope that I was able to present all the facts and figures that we could to prove our point, and request you to consider our application favorably, and if it's possible, please abolish the amount of business tax. enabling us to survive. Because otherwise I don't know how far we can go and we have to shut our doors for good. Thank you very much.
I thank you. Just offhand, you're here this morning in regards to value for, business tax. What do you think the value should be?
Annual rental value, you mean?
Correct.
As I said, the annual rental value is of not no importance. When the businesses are not doing good, like all over the country, in a province and in a Winnipeg, like sales are down for everybody. Like all the businesses and a lot of businesses have shut their doors. Like because they're not being able to, survive. Like sales are down, overheads are up. So how can we keep our doors open? So we need city's assistance to lower our taxes, to help us stay in business.
So the city is given a value of 69,720, and they've reduced it down to a recommendation of 66,120. So where would you like to see that value? What do you think the value should be? Or you can just, leave it with us and we can probably determine that. But, you're here today, so, we're willing to listen to, what you have to say and what you think the value should be. So you can help the panel,
Yeah.
or you can just leave it with the panel.
Yeah, I can say something about that because
Yeah.
Because they have taken into consideration the basement also. So basement we don't use any for anything. Like there is a little storage, but it's mostly like water tanks kind of thing there. So nothing else. Otherwise, my files are there, that's all. So if my annual rental value is reduced to that extent that I pay half the business tax, that would be really great. And I'll be thankful to the board of members and chairperson.
All right. I thank you very kindly. Mr. Shields, questions of the applicant?
No, I don't have any questions.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
Just to reconfirm, so the basement is really just storage, hot water tank. Was it a furnace in there or anything else down there?
That's all we have. Yeah, we don't use it for anything.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you. Summation, either party?
No.
Mr. Applicant, anything further to say?
That's all, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you for coming this morning and thank you for your presentation and results very soon. So thank you and have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
And you're free to go.
Thanks. That's it.
No,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Lunn, whenever you're ready, you can admit Mr. John Stone.
He is admitted, so I will just affirm him very quickly.
Yeah.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Justin Johnstone, Ryan paralegal.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Mr. Secretary, I do.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go to 119 Salter Street. Mr. Shields, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So this is file number 22-4765 for the roll year 2023, address 119 Salter Street, business assessment ID 51939, with an annual rental value of $93,000. The premise is 3,130 square feet with an overall ARV per square foot of $29.71. Below that, you can see the breakdown of the assessment. And then under that is the rent comparables. All of these rent comparables here listed are 7-Eleven locations, just like the subject property. As you can see, the reported rents per square foot vary greatly, but I would find the most comparable to this location is the 120 Keewaydin, as that premise is both the convenience store with the gas pumps, which is the same setup as the subject property. The average reported rent per square foot of my comparables is $24.36. And that is my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, questions of the assessor?
Yeah, Mr. Assessor, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Perfect, thank you. I really only have one overarching question of how did you derive your base rent from the 4 comparables that you've provided? So your base AVRP per square foot is 2721, and I am having troubles computing how from those 4 rent comparables you derive this 2721 value.
The 2721 value is model driven, so it's not just an average of these 4 comparables, it's the entire portfolio of the city for these types of properties. The 4 comparables are used as rent evidence for the hearing basis, and they would be included in a larger portfolio of properties to determine that base rental value.
Okay, so it's model driven. That 2721 is model driven. You look at certain factors like you were saying or stating earlier, the gas pumps and stuff like that. But you didn't disclose any of the other parts of that portfolio, right? Like what type of properties were used? Were they all convenience stores? Are they a mix of convenience store with gas bars? Are they a mix of convenience stores or just like straight up gas pumps? Like how is that model number really driven? Like what's the portfolio look like?
I mean, I can't say specifically which exact properties, but it would be more heavily driven to the convenience stores and the characteristics that are applied to the subject property would be compared to similar things. So it would be convenience stores and likely location and size, things like that.
Okay, and when you put the numbers into the model, sorry, I guess I have more than one question today.
That's fine.
When you put the numbers into the model, are you putting in the reported rent numbers, or are you collecting lease data from from all the tenants of these properties and inputting actual lease data, or is it just data that's being reported to the city via peer system or whatever system you guys seem to use for income and expense reporting?
Yeah, it's through what's given in the income and expense mailers that are submitted to us by the owners of the properties.
Okay, so potentially they could be reporting a higher rent than they're actually achieving on the leases from the properties.
It's possible, but we have to rely on the information that they give to us.
100%, I totally understand that. That's all the questions that I have for the assessment.
And I'll add to that, all the income and expense mailers that are submitted are vetted by our staff and looked at before they're used for the model.
Actually, now that you've said that, you guys vet the data.
Staff members look at them over, and it's not like it's just randomly submitted, I guess. Just
Okay,
saying,
so you don't look at
or not.
So you don't look at something like a step up, for example, in a lease agreement?
I wouldn't say if a step up is, we try and find things that are net rents.
So like if I'm looking at 120 Keewatin, it's a 20, for rounding number reasons, is a 21-year lease. And what other considerations were taking it into that reported rent? So if you actually took the Keewatin lease and looked at it, and was there tenant inducements that were included in that rental rate? Is there a 5-year step up? Is there, like, every 5 years does the rental rate increase by X number of dollars? So those kind of things aren't probably vetted or reported correctly, is what my understanding is.
I can't say if they're reported correctly or not, but I would say specifically on these, the comparables that we use are all reported as net rents. I can't speak to any of the other information that you're asking for a specific property in this case. I just don't have that information in front of me.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have. Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson?
My question relates to the per square foot rent. So that's model driven, that's utilized. The comparables, did you choose those comparables?
Well, I picked them, yes.
Okay.
Not
Like they're
quite.
not generated, like they're generated by the model, but you pick them to compare to this property, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I went through the list of comparable properties that are in our database.
Yeah.
Yes.
You selected them.
Yes,
Okay.
they are not completely random.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
Yes, so with respect to this, you said 120 Keewatin was the closest property, or most the highest comparable property. Is 1301 Pembina Highway both convenience store and gas station as well?
It does not have the gas station component. However, it was recently quite extensively renovated, I believe about 6 or 7 years ago. So it would be considered a higher quality finish than a standard 7-Eleven that we have in the city. It would be one of the nicer ones, but it does not have gas pumps.
The first two rent comparables, they're 7-Elevens without gas pumps as well?
7-Elevens without gas pumps and would be not renovated, at least anytime that recently that would be relevant to say that they were renovated. I don't know specifically if they have, but it's not, maybe they could have been renovated 25 years ago, but not relevant to valuation. As far as the Pembina location, which has newer finishes within the last 6 or 7 years.
Now, this location here is the Salter Street location. Has it been renovated recently?
This location, I believe the gas pumps have. I cannot speak to the inside.
Do you know when it was last inspected?
I do not know when it was last inspected, no.
That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
I thank you. Mr. Shields, what is the cross street that comes into Salter Street? Where is it? Is it around Selkirk there?
I think it's, it could be Selkirk or maybe. I want to say it is. I don't know for sure off the top of my head, but it's in that area there.
Okay. And this is considered the north end of Winnipeg, right?
Yes,
But you haven't inspected the building at all. And this is all model driven?
yes, yes. I haven't inspected it, but I've driven past the building hundreds of times.
Yeah. Not the greatest area of town?
No, but I'm not sure that that's as much of a factor in a convenience store with gas pumps as it is to maybe some other types of properties.
All right, I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, your presentation, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you guys have our reports. I'm not going to bore you with the meat and potatoes and reading it word for word, so to speak. Essentially, really what I want to, I'll caveat this comment. As the previous applicant on the last appeal indicated about the business taxes, I don't think that they're archaic. I think they are required and needed. But I do believe that property owners are being double charged for heat, hydro, water, and air conditioning, because they're already paying those bills. To be honest with you, they're paying them through the utility companies, and then they're getting dinged again. But I'm not here to talk about that, because that's legislated by the city. I'm really here to just talk about the base rent. We did look at 9 different properties. I do believe I believe most of them are 7-Elevens, and because we do have the actual lease data for them pertaining to these properties. If I look at the comps that we've provided, where the comp lease dates start from 2012, similar, not nearly as old as the assessors on some of his properties, but we have leases in there from 2012 to 2022. I believe the most recent lease of 2022 was signed on the the St. Mary's Road. Also the Henderson Highway lease date was 2022, as well as 630 Watt Street. And I just looking at those, like the actual rate per square foot that those properties are paying is a pretty big indicator, in my opinion, on what the lease values should be. At 1983 is the most recent lease date, and then the 630 Watt Street, which was also signed in 2022, has a lease rate of 1667. I think we're of the opinion that $17 is pretty fair rate per square foot for the property, based on the lease data that's been available to us. And for the record, I can look at the 4 comparables that the assessor provided as comparable properties, and the median value and the average value is actually pretty close. It's about $24 per square foot. So the 4 comparables that he's actually utilizing even medians and averages out lower than what the subject property is currently being assessed at. And I've already done the math for you if you're thinking that question. The 9 properties median out at $17.11. And they average out at $19.68 a square foot.
And value wise, you're at $61,035.
Yes, sir. That is with the estimated base rent of $17, which in our opinion is the best indicator of value for the subject.
And that's your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Shields, questions?
Yes. So in looking at the comparables that you used here, did you take into consideration which ones have gas pumps and which ones do not?
Actually, to be honest with you, we did not, due to time restrictions with overturning of staff members here. Like I noted earlier, I'm normally the realty property tax guy. So I picked up a ball and we ran with what lease data I had readily available from our client at 7-Eleven. So I did not do site specific characteristics such as that.
Okay, so from what I can see, the locations that have the gas pumps are the 120 Keewatin, 1622 St. Mary's, and the 1091 Henderson. Out of these comparables, and those lease rates average out to $25.87 per square foot, which the subject property also has a gas pump. So that would lead me to believe that the ones with gas pumps are paying more rent than what you're suggesting the fair and average of all 7-Elevens at $17 a square foot.
It's highly probable, yes, that the subject property could achieve a higher rent with gas pumps. Like I said, I didn't have the time to do a completely fine-tooth comb review. But I guess this could say the city had the time to do that. They could have done it. Although I kind of look at it from a perspective that there's potentially this specific property is in not the greatest of neighborhoods. So it's a more poor location in my opinion. Not that I'm an expert on the city of Winnipeg, but.
That's all the questions that I have.
I thank you, sir. Ms. Anderson?
My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
Yeah, I believe my questions have been answered, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I thank you. Either party want summation at all?
No, I'm good.
I just want to, the crux of my argument really, but the assessor is using model driven numbers. The model hasn't been disclosed. We can't really rely upon that model and those driven numbers if the assessor hasn't really disclosed the full model. That's really just kind of the position that I want to take on that. The assessor's provided 4 comparables, which in his opinion are comparable, but they're also model driven numbers as well. And in good conscience, I can't say that I would urge the board to rely on a model that hasn't been disclosed. Thank you.
I thank you. Let's press on. We'll go to 1007 McPhillip Street. Mr. Shields, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so file number 22-4776 for the roll year of 2023, address 1007 McPhillips, business ID 23290. The annual rental value is 71,340 with a premise square feet of 2572. an overall ARV per square foot of $27.74. Below that, you can see the breakdown of how that annual rental value is calculated. And then below that is the comparables, which are the same as the previous property, as they are the 7-Eleven locations that I was able to find net rent for. And that is my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, questions of the assessor?
This time, I swear, just one. Of your comparables, which ones are non-gas bar?
The Isabel, Portage, and Pembina locations.
Perfect, thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Just looking at the base rent compared to the previous application, like why is the base rent on this property then lower? What would be the factors that would prompt that in the model?
It could be location, it could be size. I don't know specifically on this location what the exact parameters in the location that are specifically would make that different, knowing that they're gas pumps and not, this one is not. I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Shaleen?
Can you just go over again which ones are non-gas pumps that you have here?
Yeah, so on mine, the Isabel location, Portage location, and then Pembina location are without gas pumps.
Okay. Have you inspected the McPhillips location?
Not officially for this hearing, but I have once again driven by the location hundreds of times.
What kind of condition would you say that location is in?
I would say it's an average location as far as convenience stores and other 7-Eleven locations. I would consider it to be average.
Do you know if this location's been renovated in the last while?
Not in I would say not in any time period that would be relevant to the assessment. No, not like the Pembina location, if that's what you're referring to, which I had stated previously was quite recently renovated.
Right, yes. Thanks very much. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
I thank you. Mr. Shields, there's no gas bar here, is there? I don't think.
No, there's not.
No, okay, so it's just more or less a convenience store on the corner of McPhillips and Mountain, I think. Eh?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Good location?
Yeah, it's a very high traffic location I mean, McPhillips is a main thoroughfare in the city, and Mountain is a feeder street that would connect from Main Street as well, which is two of the more high traffic streets in the city, and it is directly on that corner.
And your workup is basically model driven?
Yes.
Okay, I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, your presentation?
So for the record, we use the same comparables as well, because that's the actual lease data that we have. As I would like to note that the subject property is actually in that lease data. I will note for the board that data or that lease was signed in 2018, but the current term lease rate is $17.11 per square foot on that property, which is significantly higher than what the base rate is that the model has driven. And I will just carry forward my comments from the last appeal if that pleases the board.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Shields, questions?
My only question is that, with it being comparable that you used there on yours, as well as the subject in this case, is that a net rent?
The actual lease rent that's being paid by the tenant to the owner of the property.
Right,
Per
is it
square
net rent? Like what's it's listed as a comparable, but is it net rent or are there things paid on top of that?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't reviewed it. And in my opinion, seeing that this is a business assessment, not a realty property tax assessment hearing, I don't think if the inducements included, tenant inducements, renovation costs, anything like that is really relevant to the business tax side of things. It would be absolutely relevant to the realty tax side of things if we were determining a rent, but for business, I don't think it really matters if it's net or triple net or.
That's my only question.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine.
My questions have been answered, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Summation, either party?
No, I'm good.
I'd just like to note that the assessor is relying on a newly renovated property in his comparables, which is not like the subject, thus achieving a higher modeled value rent. I will note. Thank you.
I thank you. We'll go to the next property, which is 1871 Main Street. Mr. Shields, floor is yours.
Okay, so the file is 22-4792 for the roll year of 2023, address 1871 Main Street, business assessment ID 7359, an annual rental value of $45,360. Premise area is 2,100 square feet, an overall ARV per square foot of $21.60. Below that, you can see the breakdown of how that annual rental value is calculated. And I, once again, the same 7-Eleven comparables as the previous property, which averaged to $24.36 per square foot. And the average without pumps of those comparables is $22.13. And this property is one without gas pumps. And that's my presentation.
I thank you, sir. Mr. Johnstone, any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine,
Yes, this property is in the Garden City, West Kildonan area.
Yes.
Have you inspected the property?
Again, not specifically for this, but I've been inside that location and driven by it numerous times in recent years, but not specifically for this.
What would you say this property is? Is this a good location?
Yeah, I would say this is a good location. It's on Main Street, which I think we all know is one of the major road arteries of the city. It's near another main road of Leela, which is just like about a block over from this street, which is considered high traffic.
What would you consider the overall condition of the property? As I realize you haven't been in there for a while, but what would you consider it?
For a convenience store, I would again consider it to be pretty average.
Average? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, your presentation?
Again, similar to all the other ones, carrying them forward, same properties. We're seeking a rental value of roughly $17. I think we're at odds or difference with the assessor. Even though it is on Main Street, my understanding of the neighborhood is it's not the greatest. But outside of that, I just carry forward everything that was indicated in the last property.
I thank you, sir. Mr. Shields, questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thanks very much.
I thank you. Summation, either party?
Nope.
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's go to the next property, which is 630 Watt Street. Mr. Shields, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is file number 22-4793 for the roll of 2023, address 630 Watt, business ID 536. For the annual rental value, it is at $45,360, 2,100 square feet at overall ARV per square foot of $21.60. Below that, you can see the breakdown of how that annual rental value is calculated. Below that, for this property, there is a subject lease information, which you can see there is gross rent that they reported. And then underneath that is the same rent comparables used as the other properties, with the, again, the average rate per square foot without pumps at $22.13. And that is my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, questions of the assessor?
I have no questions, sir. Thank you.
I thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Celine?
Have you been to this property at all?
Again, not specifically for this, but I have driven past this location and been inside of it in the past, but not specifically for this assessment.
Average location, good location,
This would be considered the average location.
average.
Yeah.
What's the cross street with Watt Street that this 7-Eleven's at?
That I do not know what the cross street is. I believe it's just a residential street that is on the cross street, but Watt is, I would say, a medium traffic street, not as high traffic as some of the other locations discussed, like Main Street and McPhillips, but
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Shields, I note that I think according to the city, the subject property is 2,100 square feet. And talked about a lease here, but it's got a figure of 2,450 square feet. What do you know about that?
that I do not know. I don't know why they're different.
So according to your field sheet, et cetera, and all your information, 2,100 square feet in there?
Yes, according to our records, it is 2,100 square feet.
All right. And your information states that it's a gross lease and it was 4 years, 11 months?
Correct, that is the lease information that we have on file as a gross lease.
All right, I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, your presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to go back to Mr. Celine's question to the assessor. It is Neil Street, that is the corner of Watt and Neil.
Thank you.
And then I guess this would probably answer the assessor's question from previous, that it is looking like the actual lease rates are net rent lease rates. Just want to pull everything forward from the last hearing or the last property and note for the board that the subject property, which is 630 Watt Street, was a new lease was signed in 2022, and that lease rate is $16.67. And we rounded up to $16.50 a square foot, or rounded down, whichever way you look at it, for our final estimated base rent for the subject property. And that is all. Thank you.
Mr. Johnstone, your presentation?
That was my presentation.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm making my notes here. Sorry about that.
Would you like me to restate it? It was fairly short and succinct.
No, it's fine. Summation, either party?
I just had one question regarding this and the subject lease. You stated that it was signed in 2022. To my understanding, that's post reference for the purposes of the hearing, or at least the evidence for leases that we're supposed to be giving.
Mr. Shields, you're absolutely correct. It will so be noted. It's post reference, yes.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
All right.
So then all the lease data that you presented is post reference as well. Like we could go back and forth on this. The lease was signed. The lease was signed in September 1st of 2022.
The lease data that I provided is not post reference. The lease start dates are listed in the comparable.
Okay.
Summation, either party?
No, sir. Thank you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, we'll go to the last property, which is 404 Edison Avenue. Mr. Shields, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So this is file number 22-4768 for the roll year of 2023. Address at 404 Edison Avenue for the business assessment ID of 1956. Annual rental value is 82,680. Premise square feet is 31,036 or 3,136 with an overall ARV per square foot of $26.36. Below that, you can see the breakdown of how the ARV is calculated. Below that is subject lease information, which is a gross lease that started in 2009 at a reported rent gross of $23.44. Underneath that is the same comparables used previously. And this subject property is a location with gas pumps. And I will think the cross street, if I remember correctly, I will answer that question before it gets asked, is Edison and Rothesay. And that's my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, questions of the assessor?
No, Mr. Celine will ask all the questions. Has it been inspected, et cetera, et cetera. I know they're coming.
Okay, okay. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Celine,
Yeah, I'm just curious. I assume this property hasn't been inspected as the rest were inspected.
I will see officially for this, no, but I was in this property on an outside business basis about 2 weeks ago.
And what would you consider the condition of the property?
I would consider this probably somewhere in between above average and good. So I would say not quite the quality of the Pembina location, but higher than some of the other locations discussed.
And as far as the traffic, would you consider this medium to high traffic?
I would consider this probably medium traffic. It's more in a residential area, but it's next to apartment blocks right on the corner of a major bus route. But it's stuff around it is mostly apartments and housing.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
I thank you. Mr. Johnstone, your presentation?
I will just push forward everything that has previously been stated. No, Mr. Assessor, I did not look at breakdown of leases between properties with gas pumps and without gas pumps. Did not have the time. We determined essentially we're basing everything off of the 9 comparables that are before the board at $17 a square foot. I know it's probably not going to land there, but that would be the end of my summations.
I thank you. Mr. Shields?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
And I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation.
I thank you. Mr. Celine?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you again for your presentation as well.
Okay. Summation, either party?
No.
I
All right.
have nothing.
All right.
Thank
Good.
you guys for your time. And if you're
Mr.
on,
Johnstone, thank you for your presentations. Very good job. Results very soon. So that ends your part. So have a good day and thank you.
absolutely,
Mr.
thank you.
Shields, yeah, Mr. Shields, thank you very kindly for your presentations. And we have heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Good day.